Top diplomats of China, Japan, and South Korea meet in Busan. And mainland tourists find retail discounts in Hong Kong less than attractive. Hello and welcome to TVB News. A tense ceasefire between Israel and Hamas appears back on track. The second hostages for prisoner swap was delayed for several hours on Saturday because Hamas said Israel reneged on part of the deal. Mediation from Qatar and Egypt resolved the issues as Hamas eventually released 17 hostages and Israel freed 39 Palestinian prisoners. Under the deal, Hamas is to release 50 hostages and Israel 150 Palestinian prisoners over a 4-day truce. The 7-week war in Gaza has cost more than 15,000 lives, including 1,200 on the Israeli side. Nazvi Karim has more.
A grim Hamas press conference in Beirut on Saturday, raising fears that the ceasefire for hostage release deal with Israel was about to collapse. The Palestinian group spokesman Osama Hamdan saying only around 60 of the 348 trucks flowing into Gaza on Friday made it to the northern areas, much fewer than Israel agreed to. Hamas also had concerns about the Palestinian prisoners to be freed, issues related to how long they have been in detention. It prompted a diplomatic scramble involving deal broker Qatar, Egypt and the United States. US President Joe Biden is reported to have called Qatari Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. With families on both sides on tenterhooks, the crisis was resolved and the second batch of hostages and Palestinians were ready to be swapped. According to Palestinian news agency Wafa, 6 women and 33 minors were released from Israel prisons on Saturday. Some arrived in Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. Hamas has indicated that it would continue to fulfill its obligations for the remaining 2 days of the truce. Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said Hamas only came to the table for the release of hostages because of Israel's military campaign in Gaza. The Israeli Defense Forces say they control the entire area of northern Gaza. Meanwhile, the aid trucks continue to deliver much-needed relief supplies to a population of 2.3 million. According to the United Nations, 129,000 litres of fuel has been delivered, the largest amount since Israel allowed limited aid to enter Gaza on October 21st. Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
Thousands of pro-Palestinian protesters held marches in London and Frankfurt. Tens of thousands of people carrying Palestinian flags took to the streets of central London, calling for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza. US-UK-based Palestine Solidarity Campaign, or PSC, which organized Saturday's march, said the 4-day truce agreed between Israel and Hamas was, quote, only a brief and partial respite for the people of Gaza, unquote. PSC has called for a permanent halt to the conflict in the Gaza Strip. In Germany, around 600 people marched in Frankfurt on Saturday, calling for a free Gaza and free Palestine. And in France, protesters gathered in the front of the Eiffel Tower in Paris to demand the release of all hostages by Hamas. Ukraine says Russia launched its largest drone attack since the start of the war. It came as German newspaper Bild cited a source claiming both Berlin and the U.S. are pressing Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky to negotiate with Russian leader Vladimir Putin. Kiev's military says 5 people were wounded in the raid carried out by Russian drones. Ukraine's foreign ministry says there have been nearly 1,000 attacks this week. At least 19 people have been killed. Hundreds of buildings have been left without power. Meanwhile, Moscow claims to have thwarted similar strikes by Ukraine on Russian cities. They said at least 20 Ukrainian UAVs were shot down. A report in Germany says allies are secretly pushing the president of Ukraine to talk to Russia to try to halt the conflict. If Zelensky does not negotiate, Bild says Germany and the U.S. will choke weapons support, freezing the war in a stalemate. It would mean Ukraine would be unable to take back Russian-occupied land. China, South Korea, and Japan have all spoken of the importance of respect and understanding at a meeting of their top diplomats in Busan. All three foreign policy leaders spoke of building a foundation for cooperation. Japan said the meeting created a chance to wipe the slate clean. David Garrett reports.
A timely three-way conversation for Asia and the wider world. Foreign ministers from China, Japan and the host South Korea talk business in Busan. Neighbourly relations could be better. South Korea and Japan have been staging military drills with America. China has warned the US not to interfere in Asia's business. It is the first time the three nations have spoken together for 4 years. Wang Yi, director of the Office of the Foreign Affairs Commission of the Communist Party of China's Central Committee, said the trilateral meeting comes at an important time. It's the beginning of another 3 decades of Chinese-South Korean relations and the 45th anniversary of the peace treaty with Japan, Wang said. China will work with South Korea and Japan to normalise cooperation and seek healthy, stable and lasting relations. Japan said the Busan meeting gave the countries a chance to go back to the beginning. South Korea's Park Jin said it was the foundation of what is to come. Earlier, Beijing's top diplomat shook hands with his South Korean counterpart as they met without Japan. It comes days after North Korea launched its first spy satellite into orbit. Kim Jong-un also orders regular weapons tests. Met Japan's Yoko Kamikawa. The meeting seemed cordial. Japan and China rarely see eye to eye. Many of the disputes go back to World War II and further, but a more recent strain in relations has been Japan's insistence on releasing treated radioactive water from the Fukushima nuclear plant. Japan and the UN's nuclear watchdog say it is safe. China say it is irresponsible and imposed a sweeping ban on Japanese aquatic products. In a briefing afterwards, Kamikawa stated she wants to work closely with China to develop constructive, stable relations. She did not dodge the Fukushima problem, saying she called for the immediate removal of restrictions on imports in her meeting with Wang. We decided to find a way to resolve the issue through consultation and dialogue, although there is a gap in our positions, she said. Japan and South Korea also had their own separate talks, days after their friendship hit a bump in the road. Seoul's High Court ordered Japan to pay compensation to Koreans forced into sexual slavery during World War II. Japan called the verdict absolutely unacceptable, saying it violates past agreements. South Korea and Japan did discuss the matter, both confirmed, but gave no further details. David Garrett, TVB News.
In the U.S., Derek Chauvin, the former Minneapolis police officer convicted of murdering George Floyd, was himself a victim of a violent attack while serving time in an Arizona prison. More details from NBC News.
Tonight, the former Minneapolis police officer convicted in the murder of George Floyd hospitalized after being stabbed at the Arizona prison where he's serving a more than 20-year sentence. A law enforcement source tells NBC News that Derek Chauvin was seriously injured from the attack, which happened at a medium-security federal correctional institution in Tucson. Chauvin was transferred there as part of a plea deal that allowed him to move out of a high-security state prison in Minnesota.
Find the defendant guilty.
In 2021, Chauvin was found guilty of murdering George Floyd after being recorded on video kneeling on Floyd's neck for about 9 minutes. In a statement, the Bureau of Prisons confirmed an assault happened around 12:30 p.m. local time Friday, but did not name Chauvin. The agency said employers performed life-saving measures before transferring the inmate to the hospital.
Is there a concern about security in prison for high-profile inmates?
There is always a security concern for people who are famous or infamous, or police officers, law enforcement in prisons. Medium security does not mean medium safety.
The stabbing comes after Chauvin recently spoke out for a new documentary where he calls his trial a sham and says the knee restraint was a technique he learned in police training.
Excellent restraint technique right in their written policy manual.
And no comment tonight from Chauvin's attorney. The Office for the Minnesota Attorney General says Chauvin is expected to survive.
In other news, the Double 11 and Black Friday retail sales seasons have both passed. This as some tourists felt retail discounts in Hong Kong were less than attractive and their appetite for shopping is waning amid online options. Some in the retail sector suggested the government and business sector organize more activities and increase promotions ahead of the approaching holiday season. Timothy Lee reports.
Hong Kong's image as a shopping paradise has somewhat shifted in the eyes of visitors in the post-pandemic era. This mainland tourist said it is much more convenient for her to shop online than in Hong Kong these days, and would only buy smaller, unique gifts in the city. Another visitor from Jiangsu province said discounts for beauty products in the mainland are far more attractive. Adding jewelry options in the SAR are limited. With the Christmas season just around the corner, two major shopping seasons, Double 11 and Black Friday, have already come and gone this month. Besides online promotions, large numbers of physical shops in the city took the opportunity to offer their own discounts. Some voices from the retail sector said business remains stable, having already reached 90% of the pre-pandemic figure. Lawmaker Peter Xu from the wholesale and retail constituency suggested different sectors in the city could organize more activities, including concerts, to attract visitors from abroad. He added Hong Kong should also take advantage of its status as a free port to promote its image as a shopping heaven. This as a number of major department stores noted a change in tourist consumption patterns, with many opting for smaller businesses over luxury brands. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
Financial Secretary Paul Chan said the SAR government's recent efforts in attracting global investment via showcasing Hong Kong's advantages continue to make progress. Chan noted in a blog post his discussion with representatives of pharmaceutical company AstraZeneca during his visit in Europe and the establishment of the company's first research center in the city just days earlier. He added two other pharmaceutical companies he had held talks with during the recent APEC summit in San Francisco are considering building similar facilities in the SAR. In addition, Chan said Hong Kong will launch on Wednesday Asia's first ever exchange-traded fund investing in Saudi Arabia. Still ahead, a surge in respiratory illnesses on the mainland. A collision between two buses in Kwun Tong leaves 10 people slightly injured. And Tate's Karen Tunnel adopts the Hong Kong e-toll. Welcome back to TVB News. In Beijing, the National Health Commission said today multiple viruses had been detected in its health surveillance program. The comment came after a surge in respiratory illness cases in the country. Mimo Sengai reports.
This is the first winter in China since the relaxation of COVID restrictions. However, the number of children getting respiratory illnesses on the mainland has seen a significant increase over the past month. Hospitals are packed with patients. The National Health Commission said authorities have been working alongside the National Administration of Disease Control and Prevention to monitor the situation. Wang Wenqing, chief expert of the immunization program of the Mainland Center for Disease Control and Prevention, said multiple pathogens have been detected. Different pathogens can be found among people who are aged between 15 and 59, for instance, influenza virus and rhinovirus, Wang said. Meanwhile, Li Yanmin, a doctor from the Respiratory and Critical Care Medicine Department of the Beijing Hospital, reminded the public to pay more attention to the daily situation of the elders, another vulnerable group apart from children. Li said extra care for the group is needed because some elderly people may not be able to express themselves clearly when they do not feel well. Mims 9, TVB News.
Two KMB double-deckers collided in Kwun Tong this afternoon. 10 passengers were slightly injured. The incident happened when the buses arrived at a stop on Kwun Tong Road at around 1:30 p.m. The windscreen of one of the vehicles was shattered in the collision. Shards of glass were scattered across the ground. A fire engine was deployed to the scene. The Route 1A bus seen here at the back was heading to Sao Mau Ping Central at the time it crashed into a Route number 11C double-decker. 10 people aged between 35 and 71 were injured and sent to United Christian Hospital for treatment. A private car allegedly crashed into a bus and motorcycle near a traffic light while its driver was trying to evade a police patrol car in Shimshachoy. The driver of the bus was injured. Police seized suspected drugs in the private car and arrested a 17-year-old male on suspicion of drug trafficking. The incident occurred on Gasquiona Road. Damage could be seen on the front of the white private car after its collision with the KMB double-decker. Police found the car suspicious at around 8 this morning and began its pursuit on Chatham Road South. 2 people tried to flee the scene after the crash. Officers found small amounts of suspected cocaine and methamphetamine in the vehicle and on one 17-year-old passenger. The male driver remains at large. The free-flow tolling system Hong Kong e-toll was introduced at the Tate's Cairn Tunnel today. At 5 a.m., the Tate's Cairn Tunnel became the latest tunnel to join the system. Under Hong Kong e-toll, drivers can breeze through the toll booths without having to stop and pay fees. Manual toll booths and auto toll lanes are no longer available. The free-flow tolling system will be extended to the Aberdeen Tunnel in December. Details will be announced later. Secretary for Constitutional and Mainland Affairs Eric Chung said authorities are planning to bring out new promotional activities on the day of the District Council election. The District Council election will be held on December 10th. Speaking on a TVB program, Chung praised the creativity of the candidates for their election campaigns. He said the administration pays attention to the work of the district councillors. He hopes the public can understand the strengths of the reformed district councils. Director of the Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office, Xia Baolong, said he is assured of CLP Group's commitments to the development of the mainland and Hong Kong via practical action. Xia met with CLP Group Chairman Michael Kadoorie and other representatives at Beijing's Diao Yutai State Guest House on Wednesday. The Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office Director said the Kadoorie family has invested heavily in Hong Kong's energy and hotel businesses for over a century and is confident about CLP Group's future. During the meeting, Kadoorie talked about the financial conditions of CLP Group as well as Hong Kong and Shanghai hotels. He stressed he will continue supporting the mainland's carbon reduction target. That is the news. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Bye for now.